For weeks now, I've been looking for a glacial U-shaped valley, and this is perfect in Scotland, right up in northern Scotland, in the Cairngorms National Park. So, what you'll notice about a U-shaped valley created by glaciers is how steep the sides are. In fact, if you look over in this direction here, you can literally see it's the shape of a U. And this is 16,000 years ago, at the height, at the peak of the last ice age. All of this is covered in ice, up to 3 kilometers deep. So you've got glaciers, and then you've got a full ice sheet, and then as the ice sheet disappears, you still have the glaciers carving into this landscape, basically, maybe up to about 10,000 years ago. And what's really cool is not only is it very beautiful, so if you come over here, you can see how the glacier would have moved down this track, creating this deep, scoured out U-shaped valley. And then you can see how it's wound its way down. You can see how it's curved at the edge of the valley down there as well. You can kind of imagine how big this huge chunk of ice would have been to scour this out. And then the other thing that's really cool is when glaciers move along, they do a few different things. Obviously, the weight of the glacier, the meltwater underneath the glacier, that erodes the landscape. But the glacier also picks up stones. It's called plucking. Picks up some of these stones, and then it carries the stones along, a bit like sandpaper, and grinds out the land. And then, as the glacier melts away, it deposits some of those rocks, and that's called glacial till. And so if you look around me, you'll see this isn't a flat bottom here on this valley. This is covered in all sorts of different rocks and stuff. This is the glacial till that's been deposited as some of that glacier has melted and left away. And then over towards the edges of the glacier, we would get what's called moraine. And you can get either terminal moraine, which is the stuff that gets left and deposited at the end of the glacier when it's melted, or you can get lateral moraine at the sides of the glacier. And so you can see a little bit of lateral moraine over there, but actually you can see it even more clearly over here by the side of the road, because you see where the valley starts to come up, and then you've got all the bumpy stuff along the edge of the valley over there. That seems to me to be a great example of lateral moraine. So this is like the most perfect example of a typical U-shaped glacial valley that I've seen in ages, and it's beautiful, and it's just got all the different features, and it's amazing because it brings you to that landscape, which is now only, in terms of geological time, we often think about things like climate change, what's happening now in the last 100 years, but we should be thinking a little bit more about geological timelines, because the human race, some of the earliest human structures that we know of, like let's say Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, that's been there about 12,000 years. That's a huge complex of stone pyramids and these great big stone monoliths. That kind of ties into the end of the ice age, as the ice age is starting to end. And so when humans were building that type of stuff, you can look it up, the glaciers were still here, scouring out this landscape. And so it's a little bit of natural history, but it's kind of like something real, and it connects us to the landscape to understand how this is formed and how it will change again in the future. So yeah, Cairngorms National Park, glacial landscape, terminal moraine, lateral moraine, glacial till, and the evidence of this great big U-shaped valley, which is different, of course, from what you would get in a normal V-shaped valley, which would have been caused by a river. Beautiful, magnificent, at scale, incredible.